ever since we started the conversation, I mean, we've touched upon so many things in terms of depression and how uh, we've talked about it. We've touched upon briefly, actually, mental health in an organizational context, in professional life, in one's personal life, and in how it plays out in social dynamics, community dynamics, etc., etc. I was asking myself, what is it that I'm sort of bringing to the conversation today? Somebody asked me recently about, and I was doing this work with in an organization, and this person said that no matter what I do, and many things are going right as it should, things are okay at home, at work, but there seems to be this constant bedrock of sadness and anxiety. And then that's what got us talking. And actually, when I was thinking about it, and I shared with him, I said, I'm reminded of many years ago asking somebody that, what does it really mean to be happy in life? Yeah, because in my experience, I see happiness is about moments of joy, of fulfillment, of resolution, of something falling in place. But I feel very skeptical about a picture frame, which is like a constant state of happiness. I remember many years ago, I was in Paris and my colleague had taken me to watch Moulin Rouge. And it was a fantastical show. So Uma and I had gone, and we came out after the brilliant music and dance and all of that. And she said she was quite ecstatic with. And मेरे दिमाग में ये चल रहा था. I was thinking of. My God, look at these performers. They have to be so happy every day to perform, whether they internally feel like that or not. हाँ कितनी oppression होगी. So, I was telling my colleague actually that I think that I have no rancor with a germ of sadness being with me at all points of time in my life. And actually, that I find a great gift. I I think it's really sad. For example, uh, something's happened in my personal life, something happens at work, something happens in social life. Like these days, for example, what's been happening over the last 1 year and now with the farmers, etc., it would be I'd be very surprised if when somebody says, "Ki mere, I'm in stating how they are, there is no reference to any kind of dissonance, rancor, or sadness." For me, that seems a little out of the ordinary. So I come with a question about exploring this part that am I really alone in the way I think, or does it resonate with you guys? Um, do you carry a rancor around sadness that you carry as it should not be there, that you would like to be rid of it? My colleague actually said that I would like to be rid of this anxiety and this constant the seed of sadness that I carry at all points of time. And I was left with this question: so what would you like to fill it up with, if that's what you want to get rid of and throw out of the bucket? So that's where I am with these two questions.
I was having a conversation with a friend, and in the conversation, I mean, in the course of the conversation, something we talked about things that we had lost, materialistic things that we had lost, Um, like he was talking about having lost some photographs, which were like 12, 14 years of collection that was in a hard drive and it got lost. And he said, I felt so sad, but I also thought that there is a lesson here. And then I was sharing something about saying, I'm very fond of my whiskey, and there was a particularly rare whiskey bottle that in the course of shifting I lost. And I said, I felt to myself, this is see. And he said, maybe the lesson there is, don't numb your sadness. But I also know that when you're talking about, I can, this person who was saying to you that I'm tired of carrying that anxiety. Um, Sometimes that anxiety can become, or the sadness can become, such a white noise in the background that you want it to stop and just have silence. You don't want to fill it necessarily with joy or happiness or lightheartedness. You just want that vacuum space. You want to stop feeling that heaviness constantly. And I'm relating that to saying that sometimes in periods of my life when I felt constantly anxious, I've actually looked for just a vacuum. I'm not looking to be joyous, I'm not looking to be ecstatic, I'm not looking to be happy. I'm just looking for this, you know, constant sense of heaviness in my heart, in the pit of my stomach, my skin feeling oversensitive, to just stop. And I think some of us are able to do the distraction really well and find certain other anchors or escapism routes or sublimation, you can call it whatever you want. And some of us just get stuck with the unfairness. Why the hell do I have to carry this all the time?
What I actually have seen with myself or felt is that somewhere down the line, I always have this feeling of heaviness inside somewhere, which sometimes pushes me to do certain things. And I have seen that maybe I write very lame kind of poems at times, but I have seen that whenever I'm like pretty sad, I'm like very depressed, these things come, they'll come like waves, like they gush out. Like maybe two, three poems a day, and I like keep on thinking about them. But when I'm content or maybe not that sad, it's very hard for me to come up with two lines also. If I want to write also, sitting with a pen and paper, I just can't find any lines to express myself. So until and unless I'm pushed somewhere within myself, when I'm like literally very sad or very hurt for some, like for something, until and unless I'm not being able to express my feelings into words. That is one thing. Another thing which I would noticed myself, that I tend to listen to a lot of I wouldn't say sad songs, but maybe ghazals which are very slow, and they talk about a melancholy, they talk about a pensiveness, a feeling inside which is probably incomplete. But I somehow I resonate with those songs, and I quite like them. I wouldn't say that they make me very sad, but somehow in that sadness I find my happiness and my joy in those kind of songs. So for me, I would say it is a feeling which is always with me, and I don't want to get rid of that. I no way, I don't want to replace that with anything. Yes, with Snigdha, I resonate sometimes. Maybe a little bit of a silence works. Neither this side nor that side, somewhere in between. But yes, that is the way I feel it.
One of the, and correct me if I've understood it correctly, Sharbani.
Hmm.
Um, and Snigdha, what I heard you is that there are two ways I can carry this sadness. One is that the sadness is there. It's there in the corner. It is a burden. It is a light. It is a slight sapping energy, and it's like a constant toothache. Uh, I'd like to get rid of it, but sometimes it is just there. And the colleague that I was talking about, he said that I would like to get rid of it, and I don't know whether to replace the toothache with something else, but I'd just like to get rid of it. I think Smita, what you're saying, and which I could relate with, is if I'm trying to avoid the sadness, if I do not wish to look at it, right, then I'm basically trying. I'm dumbing it down. I'm not listening to it. I'm trying to ignore it. Like that metaphor that Emma had used right in the first conversation. Like an uninvited guest. I pretend as if you're there, okay, but I ignore you. I don't like you. I don't want you to be here. But doesn't mean that this guest goes away anywhere.
Mm.
The other possibility, what I heard Snigdha you talking about, and that makes me is that do I look at the sadness and listen to it and engage with it and feel its aliveness and see what it is saying. When I ignore it for a long period of time, and then what Sharbani is saying is that then it becomes bigger and bigger, and then after a certain point of time, it overwhelms me, and then lots of poems and songs and tears and everything comes out, and then
Mm.
there's a rainfall, and then it goes back to it becomes a little smaller in size, and it goes back to the corner of the room, and I don't engage with it.
Right.
So
Right.
other normal circumstances, I don't listen to it, I don't talk to it, I don't want to touch it, I don't look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
But the invitation that I hear from Snigdha is that when I look at this sadness, what is it that actually tells me? Yeah. And the question I have is, I know this that sadness is my companion, whether I like it or I don't like it. So it's like that uninvited guest. Whether I like it or I don't like it, it is a guest.
Mm.
Do you guys feel that you want to get rid of it, or how do you wish to engage with it?
I feel, no matter how badly you want to get rid of it, but maybe you can't get rid of it. Maybe it's just a part of you. No matter what, the more you ignore it, the more you try to get rid of it, the more stronger it gets. Maybe it's an uninvited guest, but it's a friend who is there. Um, I would say that depression or sadness is a friend because even if people are not there, it is there. I mean, for example, like you said, even when there's a lot of a lot of stress or a lot of sadness, for me it is like my mind shuts down. Like it just cannot do anything. I cannot pay attention to anything. I can't even listen to a song, like 3 minute song properly, and it's just like ghost, just wandering here and there. Like my mind just shuts. It's like it just cannot do anything. Like if I need to do, I can do a lot of things at a time, but then when there's too much on my mind or I've faced a lot recently, it just shuts down. And you know there was a there were many instances where, why can't I just feel normal for once? Like, am I normal, or what do we say, am I okay, or will I ever be able to feel normal again? Sometimes I see my friends hanging out, going to clubs and this and that. Today itself, I had gone out with my friends, and they were not enjoying, and I was like, that this the part of me which is there, which is sad. Okay, even if I'm having fun, the part is still there. I can sense it. I mean, you at that time, many. I feel that I just want to get rid of it. I just want to get rid of it. Maybe I feel that my attention span, like my attention to the fun going around, which is around me, and the sadness which is there in my mind. I feel my attention goes there to that sadness, no matter how much hard I try to enjoy. And even today, I just realized, it's there, it's going to be there. But at this time, you just have to accept it and have fun with the people around you because it's not going to go anywhere. It's there, it's going to be there. So no matter what, you just have. The acceptance is very hard that you know we will get rid of it or something like that. But I feel it's just a bit of acceptance, and I don't know when is it going to happen. But yeah.
I think sometimes it's important for us to, create that distinction in our mind that are we looking at our sadness as one of the, you know, many emotions that exist in us, and will exist and will keep coming up uh, every now and then, uh, very much like an anxiety which will keep coming up and going down. Um, and so when I hear even my own self talking about this constant sadness or there is also a constant joy which comes up, right? Because there are moments in a day and something that uh, either a piece that you read or you hear or something that has uh, something that has transpired in a conversation, whatever, or something turned out well, right? In that moment instantly you are also joyful. So so somewhere it's also perhaps important for us to create that, when we talk about depression from a purely clinical perspective, and when it's like a prolonged state that's not allowing you to enjoy even moments, small moments of joy that are happening in life, um, vis-a-vis this sadness which, will which remains with us, as one of the many emotions that we experience in our lives. And what helps us make that distinction? Sometimes it's also, probably will sound judgmental when I say this, but it's also somewhat fashionable for people to say, oh, I'm depressed, um, when they may be. So sometimes I get a sense also that people are overstating their sadness when actually it isn't that bad. Because when I compare it to the spectrum of, let's say, people that I might have seen in therapy, um, where the qualitative difference of the mood is very distinct. I'm telling, you know, in my head sometimes I've been derisive towards, or I do get derisive even today, when people say, no, I'm struggling with depression, and I want to tell them, what are you struggling with depression?
I think through my 20s and 30s, not understanding, um, there was an element of rancor. Why is this happening to me? I wish it wouldn't. It's just going on for too long, etc. But at the same time, and unlike Sharbani, I found that I was maybe penning some of my nicest poems or haikus through those moments of sadness and depression. Or I would find myself listening to a song repetitively.
Mm. Yes.
Tracy Chapman was one person I kept listening to. Um, Ravel's Bolero was another piece of music, classical music, that I would listen to. And literally, every day, maybe for a week or 10 days, and then I'd forget about it. And then again, it would come back. And that experience, I mean, that's a piece of music. Even in my worst depressions and moments of sadness, when I started listening to it, by the end of it,
Mm.
I felt that I could conquer the world. You know, in my 40s, after having gone through therapy, etc., I began to understand the state. So I started growing a little more accepting of it and learning to maybe be with it. And this progressed further in my 50s. Now in my 60s, I think I'm fairly comfortable in being with it, looking at it, not not asking for it to go, just wait, knowing that it'll go in a day or two or three. And in fact, funnily, in my 60s, I have found on few occasions where I have had uh, 4 or 5 days of euphoria or feeling really great or top on the world, I sit back in the evening as I go to bed, reminding myself, hey, cool it. The other stuff is going to come back soon. Be prepared for it. And in a,
Don't get too
in a
too happy.
yeah, and in a way, sort of inviting that, because I've realized that those moments of sadness, etc., if you if we look at it, also imparts a certain element of humility in oneself.
I think I'd like to add to what Dilip said about, when you're too happy for a while and then you start thinking that, let's calm down because the other stuff is going to come back. I For me, it's such a relevant theme in my life because I've had this feeling in me for so long that I don't even know how to distinguish it. So when I'm not feeling that sense of sadness, which is so me at this point, I get very suspicious. And of late, I've been having a few very good days. And every time I wake up feeling not sad, I'm questioning myself like, wait, how long is this going to last? Like, when, like Dilip said, when is then other stuff going to come back? When is the other shoe going to drop? And so at this point, I feel a little bit, or what Roop said, like, whether you want to keep it or cherish it. Right now, I feel like I'm very comfortable in my sadness. You know what I mean? Like, I've known it for so long and I've grown with it. So now there's a bit of acceptance, there's a bit of comfort. And sometimes when I'm not that sad, when that thing is not in me, when I'm not feeling heavy, and when I get those bursts of joy, I feel like those feel more joyous. And it's very interesting how this has affected us, like how it affects each of us differently. And this is a conversation I never thought I would ever think about, because this is not something that you analyze in your daily life. But now that we are talking about it, now that I'm listening to all of you, I just come to the conclusion that it's become a comfort space for me. So if I think about whether I want to get rid of it, I cannot, because getting rid of that feeling of sadness would like be losing myself somehow at this point.
Isn't it a great feeling, Devyanka, when we begin to start speaking with those phases of sadness and having conversations with them?
Yeah, I mean, I really thought about, I never actively thought about something like this. It's amazing how when you start speaking on it, like things come up and you never even realize that this is something that has been going through your mind all along.
So there was a series I was watching called 13 Reasons Why, and there's this couple, and they were dancing, and it was a very happy moment. And the partner asked the other partner, "What's wrong?" He's like, "I'm happy, but a part of me will always be sad," and that hit me very badly. And I was like, "Yeah, this is true." And then I kept thinking about it, and even though if I'm having a lot of fun, or with us when there's peace or something good happening, but there is a sadness always there. Like, it's not, we can't get rid of it no matter how hard we try. And if we get rid of it, maybe we are not our own selves then.
I'm listening to all of you and I'm quite struck by one thing. And probably I've also thought always like that, but checking with you. It almost sounds that in our minds, happiness and sadness are polar opposite feelings. You know, uh, that's one sense I'm getting. Building on that, I hear what Snigdha saying, that so sometimes sadness becomes an over amplified feeling, and one forgets that one also has moments of joy, experiences, etc. I think the third thing I'm hearing, building on that, is that when one feels happy or sad, do I trust it, or am I suspicious of it? Or am I even get anxious of it, saying that, you're only transient, you're not here to stay, you'll go away any minute. Or just round the corner, that there is the other feeling that is a far more lasting, permanent sort of a friend. And I'm really struck because yesterday I had a really good day. I had a terrible day before yesterday. Terrible, terrible day. And yesterday I had a very, very good, nice day. And one of my very close friends, she looked at me and she said, uh, she looked at me, I mean, full smiling, a beaming smile, and she said, it really feels good when you're happy. And even at that moment, I heard myself saying, but I am happy and I am sad. And just even at this moment that I'm speaking, like right now, with all of you guys, I feel I'm at home. You are my people. I know your worlds. I feel you know mine. I may not know your name. I may not know where you live. I may not know any. I may know very, very little about the coordinates. But so there are moments of real happiness, but I don't see happiness and sadness at they're polarized feelings. They're not opposite feelings. And yeah, that's what it's a question that it is. That do you guys see it as opposites or together?
I don't think I've ever seen it as opposite. What I have come to understand it is as like two sides of the same coin, you know? And as I always use that metaphor of the coin actually has three sides: heads, tails, and the side on which, if you roll it, it rolls,
Mhm.
you know?
So we are the rolling side.
Yes.
The rolling side.
We are
Um,
the Rolling Stones.
I'm also getting a sense that we all like the sense that I'm getting when I'm hearing everyone, and I always enjoy the way that Roop, you thread it together. You like take it to the next level and thread it together. I really love that. But it almost sounded like sadness is my best friend, whereas you, happiness, you're fickle. You may or may not appear. And so when you appear, I'm deeply suspicious of you, and I don't know when you will disappear from my life. So it's that lover that you don't trust, that you are attracted to, but you don't know when they will, go away from your life and leave you, bereft. Uh, so I'm not sure if we think of ourselves as the rolling coins.
What is unique amongst the six of us and Ahmed and she's not here today.
Mira
Mira
was there. Yeah.
and Uma and some of the others who've joined in. I think the difference between us, and as I see it, okay, and the rest of the world as I project it to be, is that here we are a bunch of people who are willing to acknowledge we are not dysfunctional people at this point of time. We may have suffered moments of illness. We may have suffered. Some of us may have, had to go for medication, etc. But at this point of time, like I think Dalip put it very beautifully. Look, I've led a good life. I've led a very productive life. I'm a creative person. I have done very good things. So we're not falling apart or anything. What sets us apart is that we are here to acknowledge that this is how we feel, that sadness has been an uninvited guest, a friend, sometimes a friend we don't want, want to get rid of, but this is how we felt. I am deeply suspicious of the pictures of happiness that the rest of the world projects. I'm dismissive and derisive about happiness being a desirable feeling, a state of being, as opposed to sadness being an undesirable state of being. And to that extent, I feel I'm a bit of a, how should I say, not a mercenary. I'm a bit of a defender or a protector of, attacks on that. Sadness is a bad thing. It's a terrible thing. A lot of modern psychologists use this term. It's a negative feeling, and therefore it should not be there. So I think me feeling, or all of us at some point of time, we've talked about taboo and we've talked about shame, and feeling ashamed of how we feel and how we find it very difficult to talk about. I think that's been a uniform thing. Vineet has said it today. Devyanka has said it. Almost everybody, or each one of us, said that. I never thought there'll ever be a space where I'll have this kind of a conversation, even with myself, let alone with others. That's a shame and a taboo that very often people who acknowledge this state, that we have to carry on behalf of the rest of the world, because the rest of the world is not willing to touch it. And it does treat happiness and sadness as polar opposite feelings, right? And I think us are therefore almost feeling this happiness is probably an illegitimate feeling for us, and therefore fickle, really comes from that projection. Yet, when people say ye to dukhi atma hai, it sounds like such an awful thing. It's like it's like being called a loser, right? So it's if this very tentative relationship that we have with happiness, one of mistrust, I think it comes with a very deep sense of, do I really deserve to be happy? You know, am I good enough to be happy? Is this joy real? And so on and so forth. But yeah, I completely agree with you, Snigdha. I mean, what you said really made a lot of sense and resonate.
Another thing I'd say about the sadness that we're talking about, and you said if it's, polar opposite to happiness. For me, I don't really see the polar opposite to happiness or necessarily a bad thing. Because for me, my sadness is manifested in ways like there's a yearning. I don't know what I am yearning for. So there's a sort of being lost. So that is for me, I am like always yearning for something, searching for that one thing that is going to make me feel complete. And that is something that always, gives me a sort of heaviness because I'm not finding it. And let me be honest, it's not that I don't feel happiness. I feel happiness. I feel joy. Little things make me very happy. Material things make me happy, and bigger things in life also make me happy. But at the same time, I feel like I am not feeling fulfilled or that complete sense. And there's something I want, I yearn for, but I just cannot put my finger on it. And that just sometimes like pushes me down. And that is a feeling that I've had all my life, like there is something that I'm just not reaching. And for me, it's that is what sadness is to me. And it's like I said, it's not necessarily a bad thing for me because like Sharbani said that she has had the most creative periods of her life when she's felt that sadness. So same here, and I felt like I've kind of grown from that feeling, and I've discovered a lot of things about myself. So I wouldn't call it a bad thing at all.
It's making me think that we call it the uninvited guest. I don't think that it is an uninvited guest. Even when we've talked about it, I've never actually resonated with that sense of that sadness is a uninvited guest. I think for us it's very much a shadow that walks with us. We may ignore it, but I think there is a certain reveling also we do it.
I,
I,
I
sorry.
Hmm.
I totally agree with Roop when he talks about how the other world, the normative, normal world, the happy world, tries to make us feel the polarity between sadness. I mean, if you're not happy, then you must be sad. I remember this so vividly coming from an intellectual, a published author, educated in America, sitting one evening in her home with her parents, giving me the spiel. I mean, Dalip, what's your problem? You say you're sad, and you say you're not happy, then that means you're sad. You know, I mean, where are the 50 shades of grey in between? The world is not black and white.
But Dilip, I have to admit that there are times I feel the world, I wish the world was black and white. There is comfort in black and white.
Yeah, sure, we have those moments. Sorry, sure, we have those moments. All of us, you know. But the fact is, it's not. Yes, sometimes when we feel very insecure, we look for the black and white because we don't know how to cope with the. It's not 50 shades, but it's probably 500 shades or 5,000 shades of gray, and we get confounded. You know what to do, which shade, where to go, how to put it together. If only the world was black and
Right.
white. Yes, I understand and I agree, but those are momentary. I think moments that we go through, which is normal. And I think we are dysfunctional, Roop. Is he with us?
Yeah.
I think we are dysfunctional because we do not fit into a dysfunctional world.
You don't fit into a mold.
I like what Snigdha said just right now, that I also feel the same way. Like it's a shadow. It is always like hovering around us. Like it's there. It doesn't go anywhere.
So I wanted to share something with you. I just, as I was listening to all of you, I was, some images came to my mind. Yeah. So I was drawing this for myself, right? And of course, it is not as linear, and because it's a two-dimensional diagram, do not. Uh, so first of all, so for me, sadness and happiness are not polar opposites, but it has to be somewhere else. But I was thinking in that bit, if it is a dyad, what else is there, right? And the two other polarities that came to my mind is about calm and anger, right? And there are certain times I'm calm and I'm sad and I'm very, very withdrawn, right? There are some times when I'm sad and I'm really angry. Yeah. There are times when I'm actually, happy, and if I'm agitated, if I'm irritated with something, if I'm angry about something, it just sort of, I feel free to let it out, share it in whatever way, etc. It's not dislocating, right? Confrontations are very easy, fights are very easy because there's a basic thing of trust. And there is a space of happiness and calmness. Now, this happiness and calmness, and I was asking myself, do I experience it? Yes, I mean, there are plenty of times in a day when I'm playing music in the morning, when I'm doing my, exercises, as in my piano exercises, or with certain friends. I experience that, and colleagues as well. So, but this was one diagram that was going on in my mind, and I was so when I am looking at sadness as a in a very passive way, when I'm receiving it in a very passive way, that it's there, I can't, like, sometimes when you're saying that it's there, what to do, it won't go away. I'm not asking myself that do I wish it to be here or do I not wish it to be here. If the statement is that no matter what I do, it's not going to go away, the location for me sounds a bit like the victim, that I'm helpless, right? If I
Hmm.
state that it is here, but I don't want it, then at least I can engage with that. And then that's what took me to this other thing that which I've written before. I think when I'm in depression, the three loudest voices when I'm talking to depression, when I'm talking to my sadness, the three voices I constantly hear are, I am not who I should be. Yeah, I haven't got what I deserved, what I ought to have, what who I ought to be, right? And that's a conversation between me and depression. Second line I hear is, others are not what they should be, what they ought to be, right? And very often in the throes of depression, when I'm in a stage of victimhood, you know, when I'm sad and I'm angry, but I'm passive about it. It's like I'm helpless. I can't do anything about it. It then makes me feel अब क्या किया जाए, ये तो मेरे साथ ही होना था, why has it happened to me, what can I do about it? Others are not what I think that they ought to be, but can I really demand? What is the point? Is there really any point in telling them what I think of them? Will anything really change? Etc. etc. And the third thing I hear is, this is what the world is. The world is not what it should be. Right? So if there is many things happening in the world is materialistic, the world is exploitative, politicians are corrupt, this, that, and the other, I really can't do anything about it. And these are the three conversations I have known. And my struggle is very often, and I constantly keep challenging myself. What would you like to do about it? What would you like to do about it? What do you really think you deserve? How would you like to fight for it? How would you like to get it? So for me, from a state of stupor, I sometimes this is my struggle, and this is where I think I want to share space with other people to find resonance in this. I just wanted to share that with you guys. I don't know if this makes sense to any of you.
The problem with diagrams, the problem with language itself, I feel, is that it is two-dimensional. Life is three-dimensional. Life is a process. Like when Snigdha says black and white, yes, at that moment we wish it would be black or white. That moment may be maybe a moment, it may be an hour, it may be a day, it may be a week. But as we grow up, and I'm sure this is going to happen with everyone because I've seen it happen with me in recent years. That is why I remember it freshly. I don't remember how I was dealing with depression back in my 30s. I become so conscious of that life is a process. It's like that. I love that toy. Uh, you can pack it up, a series of rings that you can pack up into this, but it's really something that is really long, and you can even do all sorts of funny things. You know what I'm referring to? I don't know what it's called.
I think it's called
Funny something it's called, I think.
Yeah, as far as I remember, I think it's called a.
Yeah. And that I think that's such a wonderful metaphor for life. That toy. So yes, I see the drawing. I understand, and I even agree with it to an extent. But it's a drawing. It's two-dimensional. And if we could stretch that drawing backwards and stretch it forwards, then it would make even more sense.
Babu, you're the artist. Do something, no? You're the sculptor. If you really had to, no, seriously. I'm just curious that if each of us had to give a body, a shape, a color to this conversations with depression. What's my conversation with my sadness? Wouldn't it be wonderful if we kind of came in, shared with, however, whatever form? That's what I'm very excited. So please, Dalip, create something, no?
Come to my workshop, sit on my potter's wheel, and I will throw you into a vessel that contains.
I'll bring Snigdha and Devyanka and Vineet and Sharbani. All of us will come together.
Bring the whole world.
And by turn, we'll all sit at the wheel.
Yeah.
I just, for some reason, when Roop said, if we could, just give our conversation a color or a form, for some reason, I just saw this conversation I just saw a black canvas with very bright orange paint splatters for some reason. And it was just so vivid to me for a moment that I just wanted to share.
What flashed in my mind at that very moment was a rainbow. But I think 10 years ago, it would have probably been black candles.
I felt when Roop was talking about, where does happiness and sadness fit in a way, and are they complete opposites? I kind of find it somewhere on a spectrum. I don't know what the spectrum is, but it's like those games where you can, like, take the, I think it's an abacus, where you just push the things around, the little balls around, and you can, like, bring it forward and backwards. For me, I feel like sometimes they are very close to each other, like two sides of the same coin. Sometimes they're polar opposites. Sometimes they're just, going in a parallel line. So yeah, I find the two emotions being on a spectrum to be a very comfortable thought to me.
My mind always goes blank the moment I'm supposed to do something which is non-verbal. So I will take it on and do something. I don't know what it will be, but right now my mind is blank, honestly.
It can be a song. By the way, for those of you who don't know, Snigdha's a brilliant singer.
That toy I was referring to,
Yeah.
I looked it up. Ironically, it's called Crazy Rings. Look it up when you after this on Google it.
Now when you tell the name, I can like visualize it.
Yes, Crazy
I
Rings.
remember.
Yes, crazy like us.
Now that's a session for next time. Crazy like us.
All right, everyone.
Okay, bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Good
I
night. Take
Nice
care.
meeting you all. Good night.